Welcome to Watch Symposium. I'm Austin, and let me introduce you to my Abe no mask. Now, Shinzo Abe is the prime minister here in Japan, and when this virus situation started, he and his party, who are in power, decided to send every man, woman, and child 2 of these cloth masks. I thought it was a great idea when I heard about it. Less waste, but he's become the laughing stock because of it. There were some questions about whether these little cloth masks are effective, the feasibility of it. It took them months to ship them out. I just got mine the other day. The road to hell, politically or otherwise, is indeed paved with good intentions. But there you go. Abe no mask. Abe's mask. And I think I'm the only person who I've seen with one of them on, and yeah, I'll watch it when I get home. I got another one on the ready, so thank you, Shinzo Abe. I appreciate the thought. As you can see behind me, Tsuyu, which translates to rainy season here in Japan. It started yesterday. No, it actually started today. My wife told me yesterday, Tsuyu starts tomorrow, and let me tell you, when somebody in Japan tells you that, you can bet on rain the next day. I guess it's not that surprising because with the Doppler radar and whatnot, they know. But for the next 3 weeks, it's going to be rainy, and so that's why I'm shooting here. And my 4-year-old daughter, Sophie, is at swimming lessons, and I've got to make myself scarce for about 45 minutes while she does that. The observation area is closed for obvious reasons, and so I think I'm going to hit Starbucks and drink a little coffee and read about the 48 Laws of Power. That was a book that TGV loves and apparently lived by. And let me tell you, when you read it, you can see many of his actions in those laws. Let me tell you, it's 48 Laws of Power, but it's certainly not 48 Laws of Happiness, and it certainly didn't work out for him. You know, I think in this day and time, your history comes with you, especially on the internet, and your relationships and the people that you touch, they remember. And let me tell you, it's hard to get away from backstabbing power grabs that perhaps made sense 50 years ago or 200 years ago, but really catch up with you in this day and time. So it's an interesting read, and my God, you can see his psychology on paper, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it. So yeah, you might want to check that out. So what are we going to talk about watch-wise today? Well, look, I feel like my watch channel sometimes is like a soap opera, a daytime soap opera. The few times I've had the displeasure to watch a soap opera, I've noticed that they are so slow moving. It just takes forever. It's you can skip 4 or 5 episodes and you come back and it's like nothing's really changed. That thing that's about to happen is still about to happen. And I feel like it's the same thing with this. I'm about to get the Rolex on. I'm about to get the Rolex on, but I still have the Timex Q. And yes, I guess my watch channel is a bit like a slow-moving horological soap opera. But let me just say, I love this watch. And the other day I was saying, I can't wait to get on the Rolex. But look, part of the fun of horology from like a sort of a psychological standpoint is to become an observer of your own desires, your tastes, your inclinations. I'm not going to go too much into it today, but you know, it's interesting how you can appreciate a watch and then there can be a reversal, and all of a sudden you're fiending for that expensive watch that you had to hurt to get because it helps you appreciate it more. And then you shift and then you see, you know, the aesthetic beauty of something really simple, and you know, just being an observer of your mind state as you enjoy watches is very interesting. Ram the Shrink probably goes crazy. I'm an armchair psychologist, and I certainly do. But look, it's raining. This is a great watch for that. This is why I can't do Pateks. This is why I'll never do Patek. Forget about the price, but I just can't justify spending any kind of money on a watch that can't handle this. And look, this watch certainly can. And it's got a lot of bells and whistles that I really appreciate. And you can see right here that the arrow is set to 45 past the hour. That was marking a bus time, and that's always kind of nice. And you got the day and the date, and a nod to the GMT, and there's a lot of Rolex elements in this. Link in the description to a whole video I made about that. But there's a lot to love about this watch, and sometimes when I'm looking down at it, and I look at the indices, which are very Rolex, and they're size-wise, they're kind of midway between a regular dial and the maxi dial. They don't have the surrounds, and so they have that vintage look, and there's a little bit of patina, and you have other sort of elements, the pre-ceramic hand style, not the second hand, but certainly the minute hand, and in a way that hour hand is missing the Mercedes frame that used to hold that lume. But yeah, it's interesting, and I brought up TGV, and I've got to say that one thing I really appreciate about TGV, and I actually watch his stuff. I watched a really interesting video that he was doing about the GMT Master 2. Really enjoyable. I mean, he works hard on his stuff, and you got to give him credit for that. But one thing he says is he's all about appreciation, and I got to hand it to him, because there's a lot to appreciate with these lower-end watches. Okay, no, I'm not going to start a channel or shift to talking about lower-end watches, unless it's just something I really feel, and I don't. But I don't know if it's a gimmick with him, but there's something to be said for appreciating these watches. And if you can't, maybe there's something wrong with you, maybe a little bit broken, maybe you like those good watches for a little bit of the wrong reasons. But I think there's something to be said for low-end watches, and I think he touches on that, and that's a good thing. I think he deserves a modicum of respect for that. Now, I think he used to put it, he loves all watches. Well, I wouldn't go that far. I think for me there are two types of watches that I think just are sins beyond forgiveness, and that is the dishonest watch. And strangely enough, I think Squale falls under that category, because they sort of deceive you into their heritage and their history, and that's a sin. A bought and paid for history, can't have that. The other is sort of the fake aesthetic. Now, this has a poor man's GMT function on it, okay? And the bezel insert goes from 1 to 12. Now, if this bezel insert, you'll see watches like this, if it were to go from 1 to 24, that would be useless, okay? It would look like a GMT Master 2, it would look like a GMT function watch, but it would be absolutely useless. And that is the second sin, when aesthetically it goes for something that is so functionally useless that you gotta say it's garbage. You can't appreciate it. Sometimes you'll see Daytona-esque watches, and it'll have an hour hand, a minute hand, and where the chronograph hand should be, it's gone, and the chronograph hand is on one of the subdials, and the third hand is actually a ticking second hand, right? Yet it's got the tachometer on the bezel. Total garbage. I mean, those are the type of watches, they almost piss me off more in a way than, well, the bought and paid for history. I don't know. They're both sins. They're both unforgivable. Why bother ranking them? Anyway, so those are the two watches that I think are beyond forgiveness, and I find no pleasure in them whatsoever. They just piss me off. So I'd check those into the garbage. Well, no, I wouldn't chuck a bought and paid for history watch into the garbage, but I'd sell it. I wouldn't want to wear it. Anyway, I just wanted to make this video. I was all over the place, some random thoughts here, but we'll be back to our regularly scheduled program next time when I talk about the 116610LN, the Rolex, finish off Brian's paid video. I know he got his $25 in the last video, but you don't go to a restaurant with a steak and salad deal for $25, and the chef come put a great steak in front of you and say, hey, I worked so hard on that steak that I ain't making your salad. You'd say, get back in that kitchen and make that salad. I don't care how long you spin on that steak. That's your deal. Give me my salad. And so I think Brian deserves his sub talk. All right, so he'll get it. Anyway, let me know what you think, and let's just talk about some points that I like about this watch. It's a quartz. Set it, forget it. Whenever you need an accurate watch, just grab it and go. The day and the date framed in white. A bracelet that tapers in the face of all the ceramics out there. That aluminum-esque sunburst bezel. The domed acrylic crystal. The red secondhand. Knowing how easy the battery is going to be to change when that time comes. The smoothness of the bezel action. The ease of adjustment. You can make this fit anybody in about 20 seconds. The navy blue dial, it's sort of a blue-black color. Sometimes it looks black, sometimes it looks blue, depending on how the light hits it. You can't complain about the finishing of the logo and the clasp. The little bit of blue between the bezel and the case. The patina, even though it's faux. I don't know if it's the most secure clasp in the world, but it hooks on nicely and snaps down tightly. Doesn't rattle. The lack of a crown guard. Putting it on is easy enough, but taking it off is kind of fun. Metal bracelet, water resistance. I've taken this thing in the pool, link in the description, to be taking it to an onsen in Japan. Overall, it's just a gorgeous watch. Being a Rolex enthusiast, I can see the elements present in this watch, and so wearing this watch, believe it or not, allows me, in my own sort of misguided way perhaps, to appreciate the Rolex aesthetic. And I'll leave you with this. When this was first released, it was a very desirable watch. It sold out immediately, and the only way to get one was to track one down on eBay and pay 2 or 3 times the retail price. That's not the case at present. You can find them on the Timex website. You can find different styles as well, but to me, it'll always have that aura of exclusivity and difficult to get, and helps me appreciate it a little bit more. Maybe not for what it is at present, but what it was in its heyday.